Hello to all of you. Good morning. This is a lesson about how to analyze a complex sentence. This isn't how you have to do it because afterwards I will send you the instructions about how to do it. This is just for you to see what you have to find in a complex sentence. Yes? First of all, you have to find the verbs that are important and see which are the main clauses. Then afterwards you will be able to see which the subordinated ones are. Remember that you have a list of subordinators, and I have told you before that the noun clause must not be left out of the sentence, yes? And so here you have, our forebears had a deep respect for tradition and the accepted ways of doing things. Their complete adherence to rules enabled them to do things so well. Because all people helped with the construction of their home, I assume that building knowledge was passed from generation to generation. Here, the sentences that are in pink are the main clauses, yes, like the first one here. And then here you have a subordinated clause, which is because. Because is an adverb clause of reason. So we have, in the first sentence, first of all, we have to find the verbs. And you have the verb had and enabled and assume. Those are the three most important verbs. Because here you have one that goes in the, in the subordinated clause. Okay, so then you have, our forebears is the subject of this sentence. Yes, here at the bottom I put what the words mean, or the underlining. And so you have, the subject is our forebears. Had is the most important verb in this sentence. And then you have a deep respect for tradition and the accepted ways of doing things. All that is a direct object. Yes? Then you have their complete adherence to rules, and here you have the verb enabled. In their complete adherence to rules would be the subject of the sentence, and the enabled would be the verb. And the enabled them then would be the indirect object, and to do things so well would be a to infinitive clause which is functioning as a direct object. Okay, so here you have the direct objects are underlined. In the next sentence you have a subordinate clause. It is an adverb clause of reason, and here you have, because all people helped with the construction of their home, and this is a subordinated clause that begins with because, which is the subordinator. Remember that a subordinated clause always have to have a subject, and it has to have a subject and a verb. So here you have all people as is the subject and helped is the verb. And so all this then is a subordinated clause, which you can take out of the sentence like it is up here in this part. You can take out the subordinated clause and you will still have a sentence. Yes, you have I assume. What do I assume? That building knowledge was passed from generation to generation. This is a noun clause which is functioning as a direct object. And so you have I is the subject of this sentence, assume is the verb, and that building knowledge was passed from generation to generation is a noun clause which is functioning as a direct object. Okay, this is not the way you have to do the exercises when I send them. This is just for you to see how it is done. Or what you have to look for in a sentence. Okay. In the next sentence you have Tina, an artist specializing in Asian design and graphics, makes a pair of elephant bookends for the birthday of Inga, who is her close friend. Even though the elephants were beautifully decorated, when Inga's boyfriend sees the elephants, He insists that Inga return them to Tina at once. Okay, the sentences that you have in pink are the main clauses in this sentence. Yes, you have Tina makes a pair of elephant bookends. He insists that Inga return them to Tina at once. Of course, if we don't have the whole context of who he is, we don't know that he is the boyfriend. But anyway, we know that he insists, whoever he is, insists that Inga return them to Tina at once. These are the main clauses in this sentence. Yes? Then afterwards you have to see which are the subordinated, or if you have something else. Okay. Here you have it analyzed underneath, and you have three important verbs, which are makes, insists. No, yes. He insists that Inga return them to Tina at once. This one is a verb. You have makes, you have makes, and insist and return. Okay. So, if you have here, you have an artist specializing in Asian design and graphics would be an appositive, because this is adding information about Tina. Okay, and then you have here at the bottom, you have Tina is the subject of this sentence, and what does she make? She makes a pair of elephant bookends. A pair of elephant bookends would be the direct object in this sentence. And then you have for the birthday is a prepositional phrase. Of Inga is also a prepositional phrase. Remember that prepositional phrases have several functions. Yes, they can function as adverbials, they can function as adjectives, as this one, for example, for the birthday of Inga, which is adding information about the bookends. Here you have an adjective clause which begins with who, and here you have who is her close friend. Here who would be the subordinator, and then you have the verb, and then you have her close friend. This then is an adjective phrase which is explaining who Inga is. Then in the next one you also have a subordinated clause, which is a subordinated adverb clause of a contrast, because it starts with even though the elephants were beautifully decorated, and here you have the elephants is the subject of this clause, and were is the verb in this clause. The next clause that you have is also subordinated. This one is an adverb clause of time, because when starts with when. When Inga's boyfriend Roberto sees the elephants, he insists that Inga return them to Tina at once. And so here you have an adverb clause of time that begins with this subordinator, that is when. And so here you have the subordinated adverb clause of time. And then you have he insists that Inga return them to Tina at once. And here you have insists is the verb in this sentence, and the clause that Inga return them to Tina at once is a noun clause that is functioning as a direct object. Yes? What does he insist? He insists that Inga return them to Tina at once. Here you have inside this clause, that's why they are called complex sentences, because you can have clauses within clauses. He insists that Inga return them at once, and them here is an indirect object. The direct object, and he has to return them to Tina at once. I hope this is clear. It seems rather complicated at the beginning, but really the only thing you have to do is identify the main clauses and then see which ones are subordinated. Yes? Bueno, for now this is all, and we'll go back to the subject, and when I have the exact way that you have to do the analysis, I will send it to you. Okay, goodbye for now.